Hey everyone, I'm Sneha Mashetti and welcome to my channel, The Girl with an Opinion. In this space, I talk about a bunch of things like books, movies, travel, productivity and finance tips, and a lot more. So if any of these topics interest you, consider subscribing to my channel and don't forget to hit that bell icon. Recently, my husband Hari and I got a chance to visit Sri Lanka. It was a much needed vacation and it was everything that we imagined and a lot more. In this video, I'm going to take you through the itinerary of our short trip and show you snippets of everything that we had a chance to see and experience. So let's get started. Our journey started from Hyderabad and we took a direct flight to Colombo. The flight time was approximately 2.5 hours, and by the time we reached the airport, we had a car and a driver waiting for us to take us to our first destination, which was Kandy. On the way, we made a few pit stops, the first of which was the Pinnawala Elephant Orphanage. I personally could not have asked for a better way to start this trip because I really love elephants and I consider them my spirit animals too. This orphanage had about 90 elephants that they took care of. It was a lovely feeling to see these majestic elephants having fun with their pals, rolling in mud, and just having a gala time. Opposite to the orphanage, there is a river where these elephants go to have a bath in the afternoon. My husband and I were lucky enough to be there at the right time and caught these elephants galloping towards the river to have their afternoon bath. It almost looked like they were going on a war. They have an option where you can buy a ticket to give these animals a bath. But if you are an animal lover, I recommend that you don't do this because when you buy a ticket, they force these elephants into chains and then make them stay still. Instead, just enjoy the natural view. Overall, this orphanage is a great place to visit. Of course, there are a few things that can be improved, but compared to all the other places I've been, it is a good facility for these elephants. You should definitely check this out. After the elephant orphanage, we drove further to a spice garden. Sri Lanka is very famous for its cinnamon and a lot of other spices. So, this visit was very fun and very informational too. Be wary of which spice garden you might visit because you might just get cornered into buying spices at a very high price. How these tours work is that they take you through the spice garden and explain everything in great detail. They offer you free cinnamon tea and, if you're lucky, a free massage too. After all of this, while you exit the spice garden, you go through a front store which has all the spices, oils, and other organic stuff. They don't force you to buy anything, but after all the freshly processed information, you'll be very tempted to make a purchase. We reached Kandy at about 4 o'clock in the evening, and when we saw the city at the golden hour, we truly fell in love with it. Kandy is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and has beautiful colonial architecture. You should definitely take a walk around the main markets near the Kandy Lake. We also visited the temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic, which is a very significant place for the Buddhists there. This premises has a shrine and a few museums which are covered in beautiful green landscapes. The premises is very calming. They have a ceremony that happens at 5:30 every day. You should not miss that. After all these visits, we finally checked into our hotel, which was on top of a hill and had a beautiful scenic view. We had a nice, sumptuous dinner, took a nice walk, and then finally got the rest we needed for day two. Our first stop for day two was Ramboda Falls in Nuwara, Eliya. This was easily one of the most beautiful waterfalls we have seen so far. Nestled amidst mountains and greenscapes, it flows with such poise, grace, and power at the same time. The way to the waterfalls involves a mild trek, so you might want to wear shoes with good grip. When we visited it, it was also raining, which made it more challenging and fun at the same time. I felt like it was definitely worth the effort. After the falls, we were headed to Nanu Oya to take one of the most scenic train rides from there to Ella town. Not just the train ride, even the railway station was so cozy and green. My husband and I felt like we were in the middle of a rom com. The train ride is approximately 2.5 hours long and takes you through mountains, tea plantations, beautiful green landscapes, and tunnels too. It is definitely a must try. As soon as we exited the Ella station, we came across an eclectic bar and restaurant with Bob Marley graffiti on the walls and his music playing. We instantly fell in love with the vibe of the town and just couldn't wait to explore more. On the way to our hotel, we stopped to see the Nine Arches Bridge, and the way to the bridge involved a steep trek. I won't lie, I was exhausted by the end of the trek. But hey, if you want assistance, they have tuk tuks that can take you to a certain point, but that does not eliminate the entire trek. You don't want to miss seeing this bridge because it's very famous and worth visiting. We finally reached the hotel, freshened up, and ventured outdoors. We explored the party lane that had multiple cafes, restaurants, and bars and settled on the UFO. This cafe had live jazz music playing while we sipped and enjoyed our cocktails. Hey, we didn't stop there. We then went to a karaoke bar where we sang and danced our hearts out. After all the intense partying, we headed back to our hotel and got the much needed rest for the next day. On day three, Hari woke up with a lot of energy and the zeal to get started because we were going to visit the Galle International Cricket Stadium. This stadium is surrounded by the Galle Fort on one side and the Indian Ocean on the other two sides. We went to the Galle Fort to get a good view of the stadium. By the time we reached the top of the fort, it started raining profusely and made for a mesmerizing and stunning view of the stadium. While I stood on top of the fort, it reminded me of the song Tu Hi Re from Bombay. After Gaul, we started for Bentota and on the way stopped at a natural moonstone mine and understood the process of mining. The area around Bentota is very famous for its moonstone, and if you're interested in precious stones of high quality, you should definitely check it out. Before you make any purchase, make sure you're checking the certificate of authenticity. Our next stop was Madu River, where we had the most calming boating experience through mangroves. Madu River has 64 islands on it, and we stopped on one such island for fish therapy and cinnamon tea. The entire boating experience was so therapeutic, and all we could hear was the sound of water and birds. The entire boating experience was about 1.5 hours, and we didn't know where time went at the end of it. You should 100% take this boat ride if you're in this part of Sri Lanka. We finally reached our hotel in Bentota where we were going to chill for the rest of the evening and the next day. Day 4 was a very relaxed day and we planned it that way very consciously. When my husband and I take vacations, we make sure that we get a couple of chill days just so that we are not overwhelmed by all the touristy things that we need to check off. We were staying at Cinnamon Bay in Bentota, which is a beach facing hotel and has a private entrance to the beach. That day, we woke up late and had a nice, scrumptious breakfast. We then sat by the pool in our swimwear, had a few cocktails again, swam in the Indian Ocean, swam in the swimming pool at the hotel, got a nice vacation tan, and had lovely conversations. After relaxing for the entire day, we ventured out for dinner and finally ended up at a chic cafe right next to a railway track. On day 5, we started our drive to Colombo, which was going to be our final destination. We first visited the Independence Square and the Independence Arcade, which are very important monuments, and were thoroughly surprised by how clean and well maintained they are. Our guide then drove us through the city to show us the city landscape, the shopping malls, and a lot more. We checked into our hotel. We were staying at the Kingsbury close to the Dutch hospital, which is now converted into a shopping center with great restaurants and pubs. Hari and I love taking strolls in these cities because it gives us a nice insight into how people live. We also like going to grocery stores. Don't laugh, I know it sounds funny, because it really helps us understand the culture and how people go about in their day to day life. That evening, we had nice Sri Lankan street food and then went pub hopping. After all the busyness, we called it a day. On the final day of our trip, we went to Lankashala, which is a government owned store, and bought souvenirs for our friends and family. After intense packing and a light lunch, we headed back to the airport for our journey to Hyderabad. Sri Lanka is a beautiful, clean country with warm people, and December is a great time to visit because of the climate. If you like this video, please like, share, comment, subscribe to my channel The Girl with an Opinion, and hit the bell icon.